My roommate has started acting strangely. He keeps talking to himself and seems to be afraid of someone. What should I do? At first, I thought it was just stress college exams, deadlines, maybe a bad breakup. But his muttering got worse, his eyes darting to empty corners like he was expecting something to emerge. One night, I heard him whispering frantically. I asked who he was talking to, but he just stared at me, pale and trembling, before locking himself in his room. The next few days were worse. He barely slept, and when he did, he woke up screaming. I found notes in his handwriting scattered around the apartment, things like "they are watching" and "don't trust the shadows." When I pressed him, he snapped, his voice hoarse. "You don't see them? They're here, waiting." I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off, but deep down, a chill ran through me. Was this paranoia, or something else? Then, things started happening in the apartment, small things at first. Lights flickering when he was near. Objects moved from where I left them. A tapping sound at the window, though we lived on the 3rd floor. One night, I woke up to find him standing at the foot of my bed, staring at me with hollow eyes. "They said you were next," he whispered. My breath caught. I sat up, heart pounding. But he just turned and walked away. I knew I had to do something. I called his parents, his friends, anyone who could help. They all said the same thing. He had always been a little off, but never like this. I even tried contacting a counselor, but he refused to go, screaming that they would make it worse. His fear was real, but I couldn't tell if it was his mind playing tricks on him, or something much darker lurking in our home. One evening, I returned to the apartment to find the walls covered in symbols drawn in red marker. My roommate was in the corner, knees to his chest, shaking. "It won't stop," he murmured. "They won't stop." I grabbed his shoulders, trying to shake him out of it. Who is doing this?" His eyes locked onto mine, filled with terror. "You don't believe me," he whispered. "That's why they'll take you first." That night, I dreamt of shadows slithering around my bed, whispering my name. When I jolted awake, my roommate was gone. His room was empty, as if he had never lived there. No clothes, no books, just those eerie notes left behind. I checked the lease, my phone messages, even asked the landlord. No record of him existed. It was like he had been erased. I barely sleep now. Sometimes I hear the whispers he used to mutter, soft and insidious. Shadows seem to shift in the corners of my vision. I tell myself it's just paranoia, that my mind is playing tricks on me. But deep down, I know the truth. Whatever haunted him now has its eyes on me, and I don't know how much longer I can ignore it. I work the night shift at a supermarket. Lately, I have been noticing strange things happening after closing time. Is this place haunted? At first, it was just little things, items falling off shelves when no one was around, the automatic doors opening by themselves. I chalked it up to faulty sensors or air conditioning. But then, I started hearing whispers in the aisles when I was alone. Low murmurs, too soft to make out, yet undeniably human. One night, while restocking aisle 6, I heard the faint sound of a shopping cart rolling. The store was empty, and my coworker was in the back unloading shipments. I peeked around the corner, expecting to see someone playing a prank. The cart stood still in the middle of an empty aisle, its wheels slightly swaying as if it had just been moving. My skin prickled, and I quickly wheeled it back, but the unease lingered. The security cameras made things worse. Reviewing footage after another strange incident, I saw something chilling, shelves shifting on their own, a faint shadow darting between aisles. At 3:12 a.m., the doors to the frozen section swung open in unison, releasing a wave of fog. But what made my stomach drop was the reflection in the glass, a dark figure standing behind me, though I had been alone all night. I started dreading my shifts. Every night, the store felt heavier, like something was watching me from just beyond the fluorescent glow. Items would appear in places they didn't belong, cereal boxes stacked in the meat section, a single baby shoe in the middle of the bread aisle. One night, I turned to grab my radio, and when I looked back, every single cart had been lined up perfectly in front of me, though I had left them scattered. I tried talking to my coworker about it, but he just shrugged. "Everyone hears things," he said. "We don't ask questions." That didn't sit right with me. Why wouldn't we ask? Why pretend nothing was happening? Determined, I stayed late one night after closing, hiding near the registers with the lights dimmed. The silence was suffocating. Then, at exactly 3:12 a.m., I heard its slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the back of the store. I barely breathed as I peeked toward the frozen aisle. The fog rolled out again, thick and unnatural. Then, through the mist, I saw it, an outline of something humanoid, standing still. It wasn't moving, but I felt its gaze. The air turned icy, and a whisper slid through the silence. You shouldn't be here. My legs refused to move. My pulse hammered in my ears. Then, as suddenly as it came, the mist receded, leaving only empty aisles behind. I quit the next morning. My manager didn't seem surprised, just sighed and told me, "It happens." What did he mean by that? How many others had seen the same thing? I don't know, and I never want to. But sometimes, when I pass by that supermarket at night, I glance at the windows, half expecting to see a shadow staring back at me. And sometimes I think I do. I tell myself it's just my imagination, that none of it was real. But late at night, when I hear a shopping cart rattle outside my apartment, when I know there shouldn't be one, I wonder if I left that store in time, or if something followed me home. I accidentally overheard my parents talking, and now I know the secret they've been hiding all my life. How do I live with it? It happened late at night when I got up for water. Their voices were hushed, urgent. I should have walked away, but something in their tone made me stop. We can't keep it from them forever, my mother said. They deserve to know, my father sighed, and risk losing them. No, it's better this way. My stomach tightened. What were they hiding? The next morning, I acted normal, but my mind raced. Every childhood memory felt tainted. Were they even my real parents? Was I adopted? I searched through old albums, looking for any inconsistencies, any gaps in my past. The photos all seemed normal, but something felt off. My mother's smile in certain pictures looked strained. My father's arm around me a little too stiff. Had I really never noticed before? I tried to brush it off, but curiosity won. That night, I hid near the kitchen again, waiting. My parents spoke in whispers, but this time I caught it. If they find out what really happened, my father muttered. It wasn't our choice, my mother said, but it was our lie. My heart pounded. What had they done? I felt sick, torn between confronting them and pretending I never heard anything. The next day, I searched the attic, desperate for answers. In an old box, I found papers, hospital records, legal documents, and then a birth certificate. But the name wasn't mine, my real name, my real parents. My hands shook as I read the words. My parents, no. The people who raised me weren't who I thought they were. I wasn't supposed to be theirs. Something had happened. Something they had covered up. That night, I confronted them. My mother burst into tears before I even finished speaking. My father's face was grim. They told me everything. My biological parents had died in an accident, but there had been complications with the adoption. Legal battles, secrets, a name change. They had wanted to tell me, but fear kept them silent. We loved you like our own, my mother sobbed. Because you are our own. I wanted to scream, to demand why they hadn't told me sooner. But as I looked at them, something in me softened. They hadn't done this to hurt me. They had been scared, trying to protect me in the only way they knew how. But the damage was already done. The life I thought I knew was built on a lie. And now, I didn't know where I belonged. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't look at my parents the same way. Every interaction felt strained, forced. They tried to talk, but I wasn't ready. How do you love someone who lied to you your entire life? How do you trust them again? I didn't have the answers, and maybe I never would. I just knew that nothing would ever feel normal again. Even now, I stare at my reflection, wondering who I really am. The name I grew up with, or the one on that forgotten birth certificate. I used to know exactly who I was, but now I feel like a stranger in my own skin. I met someone online, and we quickly became close. But I'm starting to suspect that this person is not who they say they are. What should I do? It started like any other online friendship, funny messages, late night conversations, inside jokes that made me smile. They seemed perfect, almost too perfect. We talked every day, and soon I felt like I had known them forever. But then, small inconsistencies started creeping in. Little things that didn't add up. One night, they told me they were from Seattle, but weeks earlier, they had mentioned growing up in Chicago. When I asked about the contradiction, they brushed it off, saying they had moved a lot. I wanted to believe them, but something nodded me. Their stories changed slightly each time, like they were adjusting details to fit whatever I remembered. The more I paid attention, the more cracks I noticed. I tried looking them up. Their social media had barely any photos, just generic posts that could belong to anyone. Their profile picture was nice, almost too nice, like a stock photo. When I reverse searched it, my stomach dropped. The image belonged to someone else. A random model. My mind raced. Who was I really talking to? And why were they lying? I confronted them, sending the picture with a simple message. "Who are you really?" They responded almost immediately, defensive and angry. "I thought you trusted me," they said. "Why are you spying on me?" I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Someone honest wouldn't react like that. I asked for a video call. They refused, saying their camera was broken. Every excuse just made things worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every conversation, wondering how much of it had been real. Were they just lonely? Or was this something more dangerous? My instinct screamed at me to cut contact, but a small, foolish part of me wanted to believe there was an explanation. Against my better judgment, I sent one last message. "If you are not lying, prove it." The reply came hours later, just one sentence. "You don't want to know the truth." A chill ran down my spine. I blocked them immediately, my hands shaking. But even after deleting everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't done with me. They had my number, my email. What else had I shared without thinking? I had let them into my life, and now I didn't know how to get them out. Days passed, and I thought it was over. Then, one night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Did you really think blocking me would stop this?" My blood ran cold. I locked my doors, checked my windows, but I had no idea where they were or who they were. Had I been talking to a stranger? A stalker? Someone worse. I had played with fire, and now I was afraid it was too late to put it out. I changed my accounts, my passwords, everything. But deep down, I know they're still out there, watching. And the scariest part, I don't even know what they want. I found strange symbols in different places. I don't know what they mean, but they scare me. Last night, I discovered them etched into the wall of an abandoned building near my home. Their intricate curves and cryptic shapes pulsed with an eerie glow under the moonlight, and I felt an inexplicable chill, as if the markings were summoning secrets from a time long forgotten. The next day, I retraced my steps back to that forsaken building, compelled by both fear and fascination. In the dim light of dusk, I found more symbols carved into weathered stone and scattered across cracked pavement. They formed a cryptic pattern that beckoned me deeper into a mystery-defying reason. Every step echoed ancient whispers, urging me onward into uncertain darkness. As I followed the mysterious trail, the symbols grew more frequent and vivid, appearing on door frames, old fences, and gnarled trees along a deserted path. My pulse raced with dread and excitement, unsure if I was following a hidden truth or stepping into a trap. The air thickened with unspoken warnings, and every rustle of leaves felt like a secret shared by the night wind. Nightfall transformed the landscape into a surreal canvas where the symbols shimmered and shifted in the dark. I reached a clearing where a massive ancient stone, covered entirely in enigmatic markings, stood silently. The ground vibrated faintly beneath my feet as a low hum resonated through the stillness, as though the earth itself spoke in a long-forgotten tongue of mystery. My mind swirled with possibilities. Was this an elaborate hoax, or a portal to another realm? Doubts mingled with an odd sense of destiny, urging me to decipher the hidden message within the symbols. With trembling hands, I began sketching their shapes in a one notebook, hoping that capturing their form would unlock their secrets and reveal the truth behind their unsettling, magnetic allure. In the following days, I delved into ancient lore and whispered legends of cryptic marks, unearthing fragments of forgotten rituals and mystic guardians. Each tale layered the mystery further, hinting that these symbols were relics of a lost civilization or warnings from forces beyond our ken. My nights became restless marathons of dreams, where the shapes danced and beckoned me toward a destiny cloaked in perpetual darkness. Determined to find answers, I returned to the clearing beneath a sky heavy with storm clouds. The charged atmosphere made the stone symbols pulse with eerie life. In that charged moment, I sensed a profound connection to something far greater than myself, a cosmic tapestry of history and fate interwoven with unspeakable mystery. The experience was overwhelming, unsettling me with the weight of an invisible threshold crossed. Now, I live with the haunting presence of those symbols etched into my memory like forbidden truth. Sleep eludes me as each night brings visions of cryptic shapes and whispered warnings in the dark. They have become an inescapable part of my existence, a reminder that some enigmas are meant not to be solved, but endured, even as their mystical call both terrifies and fascinates me. I found an old USB drive at a thrift store, and it has strange video files on it. What could they be? It was buried in a box of random electronics, priced at just a few dollars. Something about it intrigued me: the faded label, the slight dents on the metal casing. When I got home, I plugged it into my laptop. They were only for files, each named with a string of random numbers. No dates, no descriptions. Just pure, silent mystery. The first video opened to a dimly lit room where a group of people stood completely still. Their expressions were blank, their eyes unblinking. Every few seconds, they all shifted in unison, as if following silent commands. There was no sound, just the flickering of an unseen light source casting eerie shadows. The timestamp indicated the footage was recorded years ago, but the quality was eerily sharp. I felt an unsettling sense of being watched. The second video was even stranger. It showed an empty highway at night, the camera placed at the center of the road. As the minutes passed, shadowy figures flickered in and out of view, appearing closer each time the screen glitched. By the 5-minute mark, the figures had gathered right in front of the camera. The footage cut out just as a distorted face filled the frame. My heartbeat quickened. What was I watching? Determined to understand, I searched for clues online. I ran the file metadata through various tools, but they contained no useful information, no location, no creator. When I posted screenshots in a forum, one user replied immediately, "Where did you get these?" I explained, but they never responded again. Another user warned me to delete everything. If you found it, it means someone lost it, on purpose. Ignoring the warnings, I watched the third video. It was different grainy footage of a room lined with bookshelves. The camera tilted as if placed on the floor. A person sat in a chair, writing frantically in a notebook. Suddenly, they stopped, slowly turned their head toward the camera, and whispered something I couldn't understand. The audio was warped, but when I slowed it down, I caught a phrase, "Do not look for us." I became obsessed. I scoured old internet archives, searching for similar cases. Buried in a decade-old forum, I found a reference to a lost project conducted by an unnamed organization. The post linked to a dead web page, but a cached version contained blurry images, symbols similar to the ones in the videos. My gut twisted as I realized they weren't just random recordings. They were part of something bigger, something hidden. The final video made my blood run cold. It was filmed in a place I recognized, an old warehouse on the outskirts of my town. The camera panned across rusted equipment before stopping at a single chair in the center. As the static cleared, I saw someone sitting there. They looked up, and my stomach dropped. It was me. The video ended abruptly, but I was certain of what I saw. The same clothes, the same posture, but I had never been there. My hands trembled as I yanked the USB drive out. Panic surged through me. Something had been expecting me to find it. The videos weren't just recordings. They were a message, or worse, a warning. And now, I feared I had already gone too far.